What's cracking, Hope Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines. Welcome back to another powerful episode of the HINESIGHTS Podcast, where raw truth meets radical hope. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of transformation, resilience, and rock and roll. I'm honored to be joined by two extraordinary men who have taken very different paths through pain, creativity, and of course, purpose, but who carry a message the world needs to hear. First up, Randall Scott White is a filmmaker whose lens captures life's wildest edges. A creative powerhouse with a rock star's soul, Randall lives out loud in Austin, Texas. From the film set to fatherhood, from chaos of dreams chased to the calm of hard-earned wisdom. He brings unfiltered insight to what it means to live authentically, fearlessly, and unapologetically. Alongside him is Chris Coulter, a man who knows loss more intimately than most. After the unimaginable heartbreak of losing his daughter Maddie to suicide, Chris didn't retreat. Instead, he chose to rise. Now a teen mental health advocate and a force behind Mentor Well, he's turning grief into guidance, pain into purpose, and building a legacy that echoes with love and impact. Together, these two voices, one forged in the fires of artistry and the other the ache of loss, will help us explore how we survive, how we create, and how we fight for the next generation to rise whole, seen, and supported. This is not just a conversation, it's a call to action. Let's get right into it. Hey there, HINESIGHTS family. Before we dive into today's powerful conversation, I want to remind you of something special, something I created with you in mind. At kevinhinestory.com/shop, you'll find more than just apparel, you'll find a movement. Every t-shirt, hoodie, and accessory we offer carries a message of resilience, hope, and healing. It's about wearing your story on your sleeve and showing the world that you believe in the power of second chances through the strength of the human spirit. And if you're looking to dive deeper into the journey, we've got my books waiting for you, each one filled with hard-earned insights, practical tools, and stories that inspire and empower. Whether you're picking up a hoodie that says, "Be here tomorrow," or a book that helps you build your own mental wellness toolkit, you're doing more than just shopping. You're joining a community of survivors and thrivers. So if you're ready to wear your hope, share your light, and step into your own story of resilience, head over to kevinhinestory.com/shop and take a look. You might just find something that speaks to you and supports this mission of saving lives and spreading hope, one story at a time. Now let's get into today's episode. Let's dive right in. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Chris, you've taken on one of life's most unimaginable tragedies and turned it into a mission. What was the very first spark for that mission? Maybe even the first moment of clarity that told you Maddie's legacy needed to be bigger than grief?
I think the first challenge, so it's been 10 years, and for 10 years since we lost Maddie, it actually will be 10 years on Friday. So it was probably, you could chunk it into a couple of different segments. The first probably 6 years was unimaginable pain, just kind of trying to forge my way through the day, and some days successfully, more days not. And then I guess it was probably about 2021, halfway through COVID, and someone approached me and said, "Hey, I'm working on this program that's going to teach kids about their emotions," and saw the program, really resonated with me, believed wholeheartedly that it could do some really amazing things for our kids and our students. And that was probably my first kind of foray into making a difference. And then from there, it just kind of catapulted into whatever my passionate cause was for the week or the month. That was my first foray into kind of trying to make a difference.
Okay. Well, I applaud you for your efforts and the work you've done to change lives. It's been incredible. What do you wish every school administrator understood about the hidden emotional world teenagers are walking into their classrooms with?
I think there's so much. First of all, kids in mental health today, they are more acutely aware than at any other point in time during our history. Kids know what works for them, and more importantly, they know what doesn't. And when I was part of that How Are You Feeling program, I noticed firsthand that we did a survey, an intake survey and an outtake survey, and we discovered 94% of kids who were in our program didn't think the mental health programs they were taking in school were worth anything. Total waste of time. And yet when they went to advocate on behalf of our program, they were dead set in saying, no, we've already got our programs. So that's where my advocacy kind of started stepping up to the next level as well.
Chris, tell us about Maddie, not just the heartbreaking loss, but the bright spirit she was. What do you carry from her that drives your work today?
She is just a super kind-hearted kid. She was exceptionally beautiful inside and out, super smart, wicked sense of humor. We laughed a lot, but it wasn't perfect by any means. Maddie was my first child, and I have two boys outside of Maddie. So teenage girls are different, especially from a family who grew up with all boys. I had no idea what I was in for. So it was, so she was an incredible person who kind of stood up to bullies. She would defend a lot of the kids who were probably mocked or bullied. She's just, the stories I heard from afterward, and I'll share one with you that just kind of just shows her the character. She was new to a school, grade 9, high school. She had just moved there, didn't have a ton of friends. Some girl who was also new to the school dropped all her books, all flustered, couldn't figure her way how to get to her class. So Maddie just helped her, picked up her books, said, "Where are you going?" And walked her to her class, just said, "You know what? I'm here, I'll help you." But she did a lot of kindness at the sacrifice of herself. And she would lean into caring for others before she would lean into herself. And probably the saddest thing and the hardest thing as a parent that I believe to be the case is she felt she was a burden to us. And that, as a parent, is probably the most painful thing and completely untrue in every capacity, but it's just one of those things that it's really disheartening if that's the way she felt in her last days. So
yeah, I resonate with that. That's how I felt before I attempted, is I felt like a complete burden to all who love me. And it's such a falsehood that people live with all around the world. This almost instinctual belief that the world would be better off without you, and that you're a burden to all those who surround you. And it's not true. And if people only knew that, only understood that, maybe they could live another day. And I'm so sorry for your immeasurable loss, Chris. I've lost 19 people in my life to suicide. Randall's lost his people to suicide. I think it's just so devastating. But Chris, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about Mentor Well. Mentor Well is not just a program. I think it's obvious it's a movement. Why do you believe peer mentorship might be one of the most underutilized tools in youth mental health today?
Well, I think parents, and I get a lot of messages from parents who have followed my story, understand what we've gone through, identifying and understanding stuff that's going on within their own kids. And when they first start exhibiting signs of sadness, parents are quick to, and especially with social media and everything in the media about the epidemic that we're currently involved with, they push the panic button. They start, God, we got to get a therapist. Got to get them on meds. Get them do this, do that. The thing is, these kids don't need therapists in many cases. Some do, for sure, but often it's just a matter of confidence, or they lack direction, or they've got stuff that they want to talk to, but they don't have anyone to talk to. The other thing that I think is really, really important, and it's one of the foundational pillars of the Mentor Well, is teaching the elements of emotional intelligence. And so many kids today that don't understand self-regulation and self-awareness and conflict resolution and empathy, they're really they could be short roping themselves to a much better and happier and more thriving life if they understood the principles of emotional intelligence. I firmly believe that. It's something that I believe our schools are really missing the boat on. And if we wait for government to come out with anything that's remotely close to it, I think we'll all be dead anyway. So that's my thought on the subject, Kevin.
Well, I really appreciate that, Chris, because I think it's spot on. I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got all of these programs that are dedicated to therapeutics and therapizing our children, when sometimes they just need family members and friends and peers to help them resilience build and strengthen their hearts and their emotional intelligence muscles. I think that's really important. I can understand that.
And the thing is, a lot of parents, I believe, they want to be that person for their kids, but when there's that much emotional attachment with your child, not only that, but they're the ones in control of the punitive aspect of the relationship too, right? So, and I've heard this where a kid opens up to their mom or dad, tells them something that is probably offside, but they obviously made themselves vulnerable and put themselves potentially in harm's way. And by sharing that, and I've seen parents turn around, flip out, and then they ground them, or they do this or do that. So it's like, guys, we want them to talk, but what we're doing is every single thing to get them to shut down. And the biggest thing I believe, the biggest mistake parents make, and parents ask me all the time, what is the one piece of advice that you would give a parent today who's raising teens? And I say, shut up. Just let them speak, and don't try to jump in and fix them. They just need to get stuff off their chest. And if we allow them that safety and that space and the ability to be able to be non-judgmental and supportive and help them in their efforts, then that is what kids need to build those essential life skills.
Chris, that's incredible. You basically saying this: listen to understand, not to respond. Be an active listener to your child, and don't judge them for whatever they're going through, whatever they're dealing with, whatever ails them. Just be there in the moment. Just be is what you're saying, which is incredible. And parents don't often think like that. A lot of parents rather, are in fix it mode all the time. My wife and I have a great tool and technique called fix it or feel it. When she tells me something of great importance, before I respond, I say, is this a fix it or a feel it? Do you want me to just feel and be here in this moment, to put my arms over you and hold you in this moment? Or do you want me to come up with solutions based on what you're telling me, the fix it aspect? And we have a great conversation with that with everything we do, because whenever we each have a problem, we come with that fix it or feel it, and we know exactly what the partner needs in that moment.
That's awesome. I've never heard that, but that is so that's great insight and great advice, and it really does help to address the support that either one of you needs in the moment, right? And it can vary from day to day.
Absolutely. Chris, you've worked in your career with CEOs and business leaders on turning success into significance. How do you guide people to link profit with purpose?
Well, usually it comes back to taxes. And the interesting thing is, and I think on some level we all have various aspects of philanthropic desires. Some of us don't have any, but when business owners, entrepreneurs, they sell their business, they're usually facing the single biggest tax bill of their life. And if we can convert those taxes into charity, and because last time I heard, yeah, CRA will take a check and cash it. I don't think they'll actually acknowledge you and create a living legacy out of but people can do some incredible things with charity that they don't, and you don't have to be super, super rich. And people think it's only for the uber wealthy, the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts of the world. But you know what? We can do so much if it's not through money, it's through our time and our efforts and our energy. It's just even communicating and sharing a story about a charity that's doing great work. That stuff moves mountains. And I get asked all the time, what are some really good charitable organizations in the mental health space? There are so many, but they just don't do a very good job of necessarily promoting themselves. Or the other problem I find with mental health is the fact that they've got so many of these grassroots charities that have popped up for lost souls like a Maddie, and everyone's trying to preserve it. The challenge with that is we're diluting the potential mental strength that exists out there, if we stopped working in silos and started working in collaboration, I think we have infinite amount of capability to solve this epidemic. But it's not going to happen working in back rooms by ourselves. We gotta open up the kimono and start sharing what we're doing. And it can't be about ego. It's got to be about solution and outcome based stuff.
Chris, you're speaking my language right now, because I've always said that there needs to be far less competition in the mental health field and the suicide prevention fields, and far more collaboration and connection and working together. And there are some countries where organizations who just get the big pot of funding for a cause, when they get that funding, the other organizations that are in the same vein come and bolster them up and say, how can we help you complete your tasks at hand and do great work to save a lot more lives or change a lot more lives? But too often in America, and even some places around the world, there are so many organizations fighting for the same cause, fighting for the same pot of funding, that when that one person gets that funding, everybody else is angry and upset that they didn't get a cut of the gig. And so it ends up being this disparity and this disconnection that happens, and these people that are at our arms with each other, as opposed to fostering one another and saying, we've got your back, which is what needs to happen.
And there is a movement, Kevin. It's happening.
It is for sure.
We haven't talked, but I've heard your name certainly mentioned through various circles. And Randall and I have been in communication for the last, I don't know, six months or so. Okay. But there's like this mobilization. I feel it happening. And it's one of those things that there's the problem with this industry. The people within it care so frickin' much, and they just, their hearts are massive at the sacrifice of their own health in many cases, but they are passionate about the cause. And what we need to do is we need to rally those advocates and create a worldwide web of support for mental health and mental health advocacy. So that's my belief, and I believe it's happening. And I think it's starting to mobilize now, so we can start amplifying some of the messaging that's happening, because there's some amazing ideas that are happening out there, but because there's so much other noise, we don't hear it.
And I think if we all collaborate and come together, we could do some great good as a team. And I think it is happening. I think the groundswell is occurring, and podcasts like this kind of an opportunity to talk with two incredible minds and have this conversation, for me, is really special, because we can spark this conversation in our communities, which is great. Chris, let's be honest, grief changes a person. It changes a person at the cellular level. What have you discovered about healing that might help other grieving parents take one more step forward?
The one thing I tell everyone is to be patient. It takes time, and I know people who have lost loved ones who want to do something in their name, and I'm all supportive of that. My only caution is the fact that in order for your brain, and when you lose someone, especially like you say on a cellular level, and especially someone within your nuclear family, the visceral, the emotional, the financial impact that it has upon you it's catastrophic. And it's something that time is only going to be the healer of. And it's not that you heal, it's you just learn to accommodate your grief as you wrap the rest of your body around the grief, and it becomes part of you. But doesn't mean that you still can't experience joy and grief. Grief is always going to have this underlying involvement in your life. And unfortunately, it is a life sentence with regards to that, but is not a life sentence as far as what we choose to do with it.
Chris, you often talk about measuring backwards. Can you break that down for us and explain why it is so vital for teens navigating anxiety, depression, or identity struggles?
I think the biggest challenge is, and a lot of it can be fueled by social media. We're all trying to achieve and attain this larger than life presence. We're trying to hit this goal that in many cases is unattainable. By doing that, even if we get 50% of our goal, we're still thinking, we're only halfway there, which can be really deflating. And in spite of all the hard work and the effort and the progress that you've made, and I think that's the way we're wired. We celebrate only when we hit that achieved or that attained goal. The problem is we often don't get there. And what happens to all the other work that's gone into it? All you're saying to yourself is, oh, we didn't hit the goal. But if you look at where you started and think about all the progress that you've made, and this is why when I sit with kids, the most important thing we do is we capture all the wins. And they don't have to be these monumental wins that they have. It can be, hey, I went to the gym twice this week, or I went out for a walk in the rain and I had a really meaningful conversation with my mom or my dad that transforms you. And so people always, I think, they're always trying to measure it, and it doesn't need to be measured from a financial weight. I think it needs to be more of an emotional measure of what we actually feel. And if something makes us feel, gives us a smile, gives us this instance of accomplishment or confidence, those are the things we want to continue to build on and create momentum with. Because that's how someone who's depressed, if they think, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? They just need to see that they're moving forward, because it's really, really
Yeah.
difficult. You know, as well as anyone, you can't find the good in anything when you're feeling as low as you are. Well, that's why it's particularly important that you got to look at these, even if they're minuscule advances. The goal is just to move forward. It doesn't need to be at a nuclear pace. It just needs to be forward progression.
One step at a time, one baby step at a time, one day at a time. Chris, this is an important question. I really would love your thoughts on it. What are the biggest blind spots you see in how parents and schools approach teen mental health this year in 2025?
I think they are quick to blame everyone but themselves. I say to parents all the time, you know what? We are stakeholders in this. We have an ownership stake. Probably we have the most important ownership stake, but we also have to take responsibility for some of the problems at hand, just in how we talk or how we don't talk to our kids. One of the biggest challenge, going back to that How Are You Feeling program, when the kids went through the program, we gave equal access to the parents. And it was invaluable stuff. And I told them, I went through this. I learned so much. You'll be able to talk to your kids so much better if you're on the same page as they are. Less than 5% of parents actually, even though they had full access to the program, actually watched it. So, you know what? You got to take ownership for this stuff. It can't be all this stuff only happens to other families. And as soon as we wake up and we start listening to tragic stories like what we've been through, I did an informal poll on LinkedIn last week, and it came down to first degree of like how impacted by suicide has your family been? And obviously, because I'm in the mental health space, a lot of my connections also have relations with people who have suicidal ideation attempted or have died by suicide. Of my contacts had first degree contact with knowing someone within an immediate part of their family or network that has died. It was 5 or 6% that had not been impacted or touched by suicide in a meaningful way. That's crazy. When I look back to when I was in high school, or when I was in high school many, many years ago, we never knew about it. We never talked about suicide. You might have heard of a friend of a friend of a friend that may have had some issue with depression, but it is so prevalent.
Yeah.
It is in everyone's face right now. And our kids are unfortunately, they're on the receiving end of this, and we're doing a piss poor job of actually getting ahead of it. So that's why we got to do some serious, meaningful change.
We really do. And thank you, Chris, for that. Chris, it's clear to me that and I think to Randall as well, I think he'd speak to this, your compassion seems bottomless, but we know that empathy can be very, very draining. How do you protect your own mental and emotional health while staying in the fight?
We need breaks, right, Randall? We need
Yeah.
breaks. It is
Yeah.
exhausting. But you know what? I think for me,
I got that guitar right.
yeah. But it's one of those things that I get just knowing I'm making a difference. It fuels me. And when people send me messages saying this may have saved my life or may have saved someone's life, you know what? That's immeasurable. It isn't. I don't do this for accolades. I don't do this for acknowledgement. I do this because I never want another family to go through what our family's gone through. And I mean that wholeheartedly. My boys are activists and advocate for our mental program because they also share the same wanting and need that they don't want anyone else to go through what they've experienced. It's painful when you hear the stories and people listen to my story and go, you know what, it's unimaginable. But quite frankly, if I didn't have the purpose that I have to really make meaningful change, I don't know where I'd be. I'd be lost. I don't know if I'd be here, quite frankly.
Chris, let's fast forward to 2030. What's one radical shift you hope we've made in how our society treats youth mental health? And Chris, dream big.
I am looking at a 20% reduction of the suicide rate. And I'm putting a business plan, if you can call it a business plan, but putting an execution strategy together to make that happen. And it involves a lot of collaboration and involves a lot of people within the LinkedIn community who I've grown to respect and care for, and because I know they're ardent, passionate spokespeople as well, and they want the same thing that we all want. We want people to be happier. We want our kids to be happier. We want us to lead fulfilling lives.
Thank you, Chris. What I want to do right now, guys, is I'm going to ask Chris one question I meant to ask at the beginning of the 10 questions. It's just one question I always start the podcast off with as of recently. Chris, how is your mental health today?
Today, you got me on a good day.
Got you on a good day.
Honestly, this time of year, this time of year is always brutal for me. And it goes from probably leading up to Maddie's anniversary, which is April 11th, which is Friday. And it continues through Father's Day and into Maddie's birthday, which is at the end of June. So it's tough. And you know what? I've become a lot more comfortable with telling people that I'm not okay or if I need a day, because I recognize, you know what? We're not impervious to grief. We're not impervious to healing. We're not impervious to feeling bad. And we need that time to recover. Grieving is a complex and it's a fucking awful emotion. And unfortunately it's gonna be with us for forever. But it's like I said earlier, it's how we move forward with it and what we choose to do with that. And I want to transform it into purpose, into good. And I know Randall's the same way, and I know you are too, Kevin. So, you know what? We're all bound by the same mission, more or less.
We're all on the same team, and I'm sure Randall feels this way, but however you want to work toward that plan you have, that business plan of reducing suicides by 20% by 2030 or less, we want to be
You're
there to
already
help
on
you.
the list, guys.
We're there with you. We're there with you, Chris. Randall, let's move to you for now. Thank you, Chris, for your time and for your empowering answers and moving answers for change. Randall, let's start with that same question, maybe the most important question of the day. How is your mental health today, Randall?
You know those World War II movies where you got the pilot and there's 3 bullet holes in the fuselage and there's flak that's been hitting the tail and both engines are on fire and the wings are hitting the treetops? I'm in that moment.
I was spoken like a true film guy.
I'm in the air. I'm still in the air. But it's been a long journey, and it's interesting, Chris. Mine really, I think, started 2015 as well. This 10-year path that you can't help but to walk, right? Like you can't help the road. You can't get off of that road. because you're on that road. So we're on the road. So today, I will say I appreciate your words, Chris, and that advice can even stretch to adults, count your wins, because I'm looking back and, as tough as that journey is, or if you use, the climbing a mountain, right? And whatever that bell is for you to ring when you get to the top of it, you gotta realize that you're just constantly on that mountain climb.
Yeah.
And you get rests along the way, but life is that mountain climb, right? And there's lots of different bells. So I'm excited to join you two as, I guess, the newest to what I agree is a call to action and a movement and a mobilization of tackling what is an epidemic and a crisis. So taking care of ourselves is part of that, though.
Thank you, Randall, for that. Thank you for your brutal honesty. It's really needed and it's important and it's necessary. Randall, your life has all the flavor of a rock and roll documentary. You are a documentarian and a filmmaker. Tell us about how filmmaking became your instrument of choice in expressing that wild, rebellious creativity. And next to that, Randall, tell us about your losses that you've recently experienced.
Sure. Yeah. The quick backstory is I grew up a military brat. And from a relatively stable American family, hardworking parents and pretty clean cut. I was the black sheep that didn't go into the military. I had two older brothers that did, and my dad was in the military. And I had a change when I moved from Anchorage, Alaska down to Portland, Oregon, because I felt like starting a rock band. And I started that band and met a wonderful woman. We started grooving, and my band Railer, we were doing really well in the scene. Scouted by Guns N' Roses former manager, and he was managing The Cure at the time. So the gal I was with thought, wow, he's going to be a rock star. I thought I'm going to be a rock star. And we went to LA and I blew it. And then the Killers get signed instead, right? So, but along the lines, I've taken some big hits. First in 2005, losing my brother who had just returned from the Middle East. He's the crew chief for Tommy Franks, the 4-star general who invaded Iraq in 2003. He was a commander of CENTCOM. So my brother saw a lot of stuff and in the military that he couldn't talk about. And of course, when you lose somebody, the military gives you a coin. You never want one of those coins because he took his own life in 2005. And then I lost my bandmate. One of my best friends in Railer, our guitarist, Danger 10. And then my late wife in 2015 to bipolar disorder. And the whole point of documenting it was it started out, you're taking Christmas home videos one day and the next you're filming someone in manic psychosis because you think you might be in front of a judge and you're trying to protect your kid and say, hey, I need custody when my partner is literally insane. And so those kinds of fights all along the way turned into a film. And it's it's an award-winning film by two-time Oscar winner Bill Gutentag. By Emmy award-winning composer David Kahn. And it's really making an impact because it's all real footage when ultimately I was just showing back my wife her undiagnosed disorder. Kevin, we didn't know what bipolar disorder was. How hard is that for years when you're undiagnosed and not medicated or treating for it? And your family's falling apart during all of these mania and depressive episodes and swinging back and forth. So I captured that. And then I'm bringing this message forth for the same reason, the same mission, like Chris and you, Kevin. You don't want it to happen to other people.
Yeah.
Here is the upstream warning: danger, waterfall that way. Don't fall over the edge. Serious. There's a waterfall there. I've seen 3 people go over it. Don't go that way. You want to do that, and that's the message.
Randall, thank you for sharing that. And we are both sorry and saddened for your incredible losses, and we're here for you anytime you want to talk. What's been one of your, and you talked about it, maybe one of the ones is what happened with your band, but what is one of your biggest creative failures, and how did it shape the filmmaker you are today?
I'd say one of my biggest creative failures is today a platform called Nextdoor, and it's a neighbor-to-neighbor social network outside of Facebook. And I actually pioneered the sharing economy in 2007. Before Nextdoor took off, it was called Bright Neighbor. We had all 95 neighborhoods in Portland using it. It was a social network for meeting your neighbors through utility, such as, hey, anybody have a ladder? I just grew some tomatoes. It gave you a reason to functionally create community at the hyperlocal level. And I think Nextdoor and Facebook, they all missed the boat on that. It was really about finding a reason to generate a neighborhood cul-de-sac party, right? And find that, because we all have enough stuff, but if you could reduce the financial burden of having to go buy something when you could simply borrow it, that was the impetus behind it, while creating community. You could find out which your neighbors like kayaking, who like the same music. I still don't think that's functionally been achieved with all of the technology even out there in 2025. I think people just use it to bitch and moan about their neighbors' dogs who bark at 3 a.m., which is really missing the mark.
Or when they lose their cat.
Or when they lose their cat. You know, it has its uses. They never quite got the sharing economy that I was trying to pioneer. And I failed to, I built it all for 25 grand, and to launch a complete network that the city of Portland licensed, the electric utility licensed, and we had 7,500 users on in all 95 neighborhoods. I was happy with that achievement, but I ran out of, which is usually the case.
Fair enough. Randall, it's my understanding you're raising a teen in today's world of screens, chaos, and pressure. What surprises you most about parenting in 2025?
That no matter how you think you're going to be able to capture everything and help prevent all the boo-boos, they'll still screw up, find a way to generate an account that you don't know about on a platform you told them not to be on, and communicate with people that way and still get their screen time. Get through, you could take the phone away and they'll just find a friend with one. I mean, can you really stop it anymore? So that's the big thing, is like Chris saying, is you maybe let go of the wheel a bit, and you can try, but these are modern teens. We were punks. These guys are worse.
Oh, man.
They're way worse.
Yeah, I hear you. For you, home is Austin, Texas, and it's more than a backdrop. It's kind of like a character in your story. How has that city shaped your work and your worldview?
Yeah, thank you. I moved to Texas from Oregon in 2017 after realizing that it was best not to be a single dad up there in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, but I had family down here in Texas, and it's best to raise my daughter where she had a support system. And plus, I love Texas, and Austin is such an amazing city, especially for me, a musician and a creative. I find myself these days film producer. Still, I do marketing, and I'm a technologist and an inventor. I'm telling you, 3D menus with augmented reality, once AR glasses hit in 2028, it's going to be everywhere. You just have like Back to the Future food drop in front of you. That's coming. So I invented that, and I'm waiting for the market to catch up. Those kinds of things. Always pushing the edge, because it's a city, as you know, known for music, technology, and art. And those are all
nice. Randall, you've walked the edge of burnout, beauty, and brilliance. How do you find balance when your lifestyle feels like one long encore?
I really think that you gotta just keep talking and find more groups. I'm a talker. I'm a frontman in a band. Of course, I love to get out there and have a message, just like lyrics, right? You write lyrics where you have something to say. So in this new public persona of, like you said, Chris, really opening the kimono spiral, my film, SPYRAL. It's real embarrassing because there's so much, there's TMI, and then you get to make a movie out of it, right?
Yeah.
And you see, like in the ripple effect, you have such a gut-wrenching story that you get to tell and bring everybody into what happened. My film is, I'm actually showing, and there's a balanced view of somebody who is on the receiving end of mental illness, right? Like Kevin, like your family, where they're like, what is going on with him? And they didn't understand your behavioral issues with bipolar, right? And then there's the view of the person who's suffering from bipolar and their viewpoint. So I really think the film is a balanced approach on looking under the hood of any given family in America that is somebody suffering with mental illness, the dynamics of it that are real, and it's generational. This film covers 4 generations of a family. It's pretty wild.
Randall, your film Spiral is incredible, and it should be watched by anyone who wants to see what it's like to go through an experience with the one you love the most that is both devastating, terrifying, and real. And people who watch your film, that film stays with them. It will stay with them forever. That much I can tell you. What was it like making the film and then ultimately losing her?
This journey has a start, and I'm not at the end point yet. And that means the story's not done just because the credits have rolled. And like you, Kevin, right? Like you are now on to your next film project. By the way, congratulations. That's really, you've got such a great crew with that. And we're continuing this mobilization. So my film journey was, I didn't start out as a film producer, but I became one by working with an amazing team. You don't get a 2-time Oscar-winning director without having a team that they bring in that they know what they're doing. So it was really almost like an FBI investigation to make the film. I had to turn over all of the documentation, all of the diaries, all the healthcare records, all of everything, so that they could meticulously scrutinize any claim I may have made or that anybody else in the story. So it was real learning lesson for me on the process of producing a film and a documentary with so many shots and real professionalism brought to it versus, anybody who's an indie filmmaker that's just throwing it together on a laptop. That served as a demo for me when I was just putting thoughts together, and then the film ended up being made. But the real issue, Kevin, and for any storyteller these days who is an independent storyteller or filmmaker, is distribution. Really, I mean, getting it out there is key. The hard part is once you make your thing, hey, I've got my thing. Here's my thing. Hey, world, here's my thing. And then the world doesn't care. You have a lot of work to do for you.
Well, it's about what you said earlier, Chris. It's about appreciating the wins we do have, appreciating the moments. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, right? The journey of getting there. And although it's been hard for all of us in different ways, here we are today having this conversation with each other together as a unit with the hope, the wish, and the prayer that we get to help each other do great good together over the course of time. Randall, let's talk briefly about Michelle Trachtenberg, and she narrated your film, and it turned out to be her last film. Can you share something about her with us that maybe was a positive for working with her?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing Michelle Trachtenberg up. It's just recently that she has passed away, and she's best known for her roles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Weeds and Eurotrip and so many other films that impacted her from being a child actor all the way up through her recent passing. Spiral was her final project, and she really did love the film and wanted to see it get out there. As a matter of fact, she was intending to join us this March at the screening in Austin, a private screening of the film during a real chaotic film festival time here. And unfortunately, she passed shortly before that. So there's been media attention on the not just Spiral itself, but more and more celebrities are focused on mental health as something that is, it's not just a virtue badge anymore. It's actually they are coming with their own crisis as well as a message. And so this mobilization is happening. And Michelle Trachtenberg did a...
Hey again, Hindsights listeners. Before we wrap up, I've got something special just for you. If you've ever been inspired by a message of resilience, hope, and overcoming the odds, why not wear that inspiration with pride? At kevinhinestory.com/shop, we've got a collection of apparel that isn't just about looking good, though trust me, you'll look amazing. It's about feeling good, knowing that every hoodie, every t-shirt, every accessory you wear or water bottle you drink from carries a message of strength and survival. Our gear isn't just fabric, it's a statement. It's a reminder that you're part of a community that believes in second chances, in hope, and in the power of storytelling. So whether you're looking for your next favorite hoodie to keep you cozy, a bold t-shirt to rep your resilience, or an accessory that says, I'm here, I'm strong, and I'm unbreakable, we've got you covered. And the best part, every purchase helps us keep this mission going, spreading hope, one story, sparking conversations at the gym, at the office, or at home, and one stylish piece of apparel at a time. And don't forget about the life and game-changing books. Head over to kevinhinesstory.com/shop and grab yours today. Trust me, you'll love it, and you'll be a part of something bigger than yourself. All right, let's get back to the show.
Wonderful job in narrating the diaries of my late wife Michelle in the film. So her persona really was eerily so matching to it. I couldn't distinguish between their voices even at times. It's been impacting people since it premiered this summer in Hollywood and won second place out of 8,500 documentaries. So it's helping people, and Michelle Trachtenberg's going to be saving lives. At that particular screening, someone came up and said, I was suicidal. I intended to take my life next week. But because of this film, I know I just need help. I know I can't do that, and I need to get help. And me and the producer are sitting there, and all we could do is offer her a hug. Yeah. And I say, well, that's not enough. We pointed out the problem. Well, this person needs real help. How do we get her resources? So now I have built a software as a service subscription to America's lowest priced 24/65 mental health care network, because I didn't have that with Michelle. You know, for $70, you get unlimited mental health sessions. Everyone else is charging per session. That's the problem. It's out of range. Affordability for mental health care is out of range. They can't grab that rope right in front of them. Well, you got to lower the rope, which means lower the financial bar to that stuff. So I'm excited about actually attaching a solution to the film. Once you see it, then you can get the help, because we didn't have that boat to put her on at the end of the film.
Hey, Randall, sorry, Kevin. Randall, you mentioned about how the whole charitable, the importance of the charitable side of things and making it achievable and attainable for everyone, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges out there, that almost like the two-tier healthcare system. And that's the one thing that we want to do with the Mentor Well, is we want to set up a foundation, and our mentors have the option of being able to donate their fees into the foundation to ensure that other kids, less fortunate kids, qualify for the same treatment, because I'm tired of seeing the two levels of healthcare that exists, and it's
yeah. You know, I started out that way. We started a foundation after that incident, and we gave away nearly $15,000 worth of free mental health therapy. If you came to see Spiral and you were an audience member and you could prove that you were there, we covered up to 5 sessions for you to get mental health care. And that's when I realized how expensive it is per session, like $150. So we're trying to negotiate on behalf of our audiences lower rates with all these digital mental health providers that says, not good enough, it's not good enough, not good enough. Went out and built a network of 2,000 licensed clinicians. So now it's good enough. That's a low enough bar. But what you're doing with your work here is, if it's donation based, we had a private equity fund where the general partner was giving part of his percentage to cover this mental health stuff, because he's a fan of the film. And but how far can donations go versus a sustainable business model, right?
Right.
Building out that foundation, Chris, like ours is out of money right now. I'm like, I built this machine of support, but like the donations aren't coming in yet. So then I was like, okay, well, that's not sustainable. So I had to scale back to an actual subscription model where people could get speed to care. So it's literally almost like the market is broken in terms of accessibility to care, but the levels of free care aren't good enough to qualify for somebody who really needs longer term care of help.
Yeah.
You can't one-off an 888 call for long-term mental health.
No, and we need to solve this crisis. And I bet, Chris, you have some great ideas with your business plan to do so. But Randall, I want to ask you one final question. You've filmed some wild moments. You've lived through even wilder ones. If you could direct one final legacy-defining scene for your life story, for people to see beyond your time here on Earth, what would it look like and what would it be?
It would be the world's largest concert like Live Aid, but even bigger for suicide awareness, where everybody knew it was okay to not be okay. And Railer would take the stage and send everybody off into the night with pyrotechnics and a drone show with one of those cool Chinese dragons doing something like this.
I love it. Let's close it out right there, guys. As we close today's Hindsights podcast conversation, I want to leave you with this truth. Pain may visit us all, but it does not have to define us. What you just heard are not just stories. They're testaments to the unbreakable spirit of the human heart. Randall Scott White reminds us that art, when made from the marrow of our lives, becomes medicine not just for the maker, but for the world. And Chris Coulter shows us that even in the darkest depths of grief, there can be purpose through the pain, legacy through love, and light through hope. In a world that often rushes past pain or numbs it, today we slowed down, we listened to understand, not to respond, we connected, and that connection, that's where the healing begins. Whether you are a creator chasing wild dreams, a parent navigating heartbreak, a teen fighting to be seen and heard, or someone simply trying to hold on, know this: you are not alone. I know that's easy for me to say and harder for you to understand. And more than that, your story still matters because your voice still matters. So until next time, keep holding on. Be here tomorrow. Keep showing up. Keep believing that after the breakdown comes the breakthrough. This is the Hindsights Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.